everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dorky Dunkleosteus. I'm your curator, Carla, and today we are going to be talking about the one, the only, except there's multiple species and genuses, the Dunkleosteus and other placoderms. So we're going to be talking about them, and we're going to see exactly what makes them so cool and why I have chosen the Dunkleosteus as not only our mascot, but the title of this page. So, let's take a look. Why did I choose Dunkleosteus for a mascot? Well, I love Dunkleosteus. I love dunks, really do. Placoderms are one of the very rare fossils that I can actually find where I live in western New York. They're incredibly fascinating creatures. They lived during the Devonian era, so 385 million years ago, and they're lucky enough to have some amazing features, which we'll get into, but I've also been incredibly lucky enough to see a real skull in a museum collection. The one in the back, not the one that was a cast. And it wasn't a Dunkleosteus, but was a pretty big other species. Its head was about that wide. It's pretty cool. It's actually at the Buffalo Museum of Science. I highly recommend visiting that museum. It's got some really cool early stuff. I was lucky enough to actually see this skull as it was completely flattened, and actually see where they took red chalk and actually traced out the actual skull plates, and actually then from that put it back together to be put on display, and it was really, really cool. So let's talk about some placoderms. Placoderm is an extinct fish of the Devonian period, identified by its head covered with a thick bony plate. Now this is different from other fish. It is a true fish. I couldn't find anything to see if they were actually a bony fish or not. Considering this was really early, about 385 million years ago is where I'm used to finding them in that strata. But placoderms were around from 430 million years ago to 358.9 million years ago, the late Silurian to the end of the Devonian. These guys were really cool. Some of the fish, the actual bony plates, could be almost 2 inches thick. It was a covering of bone over their head, which they used as armor. They were also some of the first true jawed fish. Now there's other true jawed fish as well, but dunks were, well, placoderms in general, not just dunks, were some of the most unique. And I'm yawning, and I'm sorry, but they were really, really unique. All but one known species did not have true teeth. So teeth, we consider teeth to be separate entities. They grow, they develop, they have their own individual nerve systems. They can be removed. If anybody's had their wisdom teeth removed, they know that. I have had the unfortunate evidence of that. I had both of my wisdom teeth removed. Only my bottom, I don't have top. That's a cool little genetic thing. But teeth generally can be socketed, or they can be non-socketed. So non-socketed is more like lizard teeth. If you look at an iguana or a bearded dragon, I've got a bearded dragon, their teeth actually aren't in sockets. They're actually just part of their jaw. They're protrusions of different material. But placoderms actually had bony dental plates. So these were actually, and actually let me get one of my examples. So when it comes to the actual placoderms, they actually had, and it's kind of hard to see with how my camera is small, so let me blow myself up here really quick. There we go. So you can see on this model, this is from what company? Scheilich. It's a German company. They make these really cool toys. Pretty accurate. So these teeth are actually bone. They're protruding bone. On the actual fossils themselves, that's actually part of their head plate, and their jaws. This is actually a great one. I love this one. It shows that individual bony plate. It shows also the Dunkleosteus. This is a Dunkleosteus, so it shows this gap here between the thorax and the head plate. But yeah, these were all actual bone, and it was a shearing force. You can get in really close here, and you can see it actually would scissor cut pretty nicely. Again, this is just a model. So, the real ones are really cool. Uh, the actual fossils show quite a bit more in the way of the sharpness of the bone and the power behind it. So that's one really cool thing about these guys. Let's talk about some more cool stuff. So Dunkleosteus. Again, this is Dunkleosteus. I also have a plushie from PRI, which is the Paleontological Research Institute, and he sits on the back of my laptop here. From PRI, Paleozoic Pales from PRI, Paleontological Research Institute in Ithaca, New York. Great fossil, the Museum of the Earth. They actually have a skull of this guy. He's gonna sit right there. They actually have a skull of a Dunkleosteus in their museum. I've moved my chair too much. So they have one that's the actual skull plate, and then they have a wire form for the rest of it out. Really quite interesting. These, so Dunkleosteus, actually comes from osteus, which is Greek for bone, and Dunkel, which is honoring David Dunkel, who discovered the fossils. So it actually translates to being the bone of Dunkel. So thank you, Mr. Dunkel. Some of the largest placoderms were the Dunkleosteus. They grew to about a little over 30 feet or 9 meters long. So to take that into consideration, I believe the average... Hey, I love Google. So a school bus is about 30 feet long. So this thing is long as a long school bus. 30 to 40 feet. These guys we think maybe could have gotten a little better. Now, Dunkleosteus torelli, which is both this one and my lovely little shoulder buddy here, they could have a bite force of 6,000 newtons on the tips, or the bony part, the very pointy parts, and 7,400 on the blade edge. So the blade being, and again, I'm going to scooch on over to my settings, and I'll blow up my video again. I should just figure out a way to make this a little easier on myself. So the tip being about 6,000, and this blade edge being 7,400. Pretty cool. Let me stay there. Move my mic a little bit so people can see your lovely face. That's a lot of pressure, especially in a fish. So that's really kind of cool. So, in a 2017 study on the Dunkleosteus torelli body form thought to be more shark-like rather than grouper-like. And that's just by looking at some of the fossils that were also preserved beyond just the iconic head plates. So this is a Dunkleosteus species skull illustration. So we have that nuchal gap, just like here. That's what makes a Dunkleosteus a unique species, or a unique genus, I should say. This gap actually allowed the upper portion of the head to open up as well. So instead of just having a lower jaw opening, they could actually open their top as well, increasing that gape size. You had, of course, the thoracic stele. The orbit is really cool because the orbits are very well preserved. We actually, it was this bony orbit that we see oftentimes in dinosaurs and, of course, modern birds. These orbits helps to fix the actual eyeball in its socket and protect it as well. So, of course, you see the bladed dentitions, the lower jaw. Let's just say lower jaw, the jaw joint. These fish, these very, very cool fish, were incredibly adapted to doing a lot of damage. So, I actually do have a placoderm fossil. I couldn't find it, which drives me nuts. It's in a box somewhere, probably in my room, which, being under quarantine, I should probably clean my room a little bit more. I'm trying. But I actually have a placoderm fossil. I don't know what exact species or genus it's from. I found it in about the spring of 2018. I was working there as an educator. I loved working there, absolutely adored it. Um, it was a lot of fun. So when I brought this piece up, it's about that big. It's about the size, a little larger than a golf ball. And when I first saw it, it was in a what we call a till pile, which is just a whole bunch of rocks and things that have been dug up from the spring that we let kind of just erode naturally and get wet and everything just kind of you know comes down. And I showed it to excuse me, I have not had coffee today, so pardon me. But I showed it to one of my coworkers, and I kind of was holding it because I had taken a group down. I believe it was a father and a son or daughter, a young child, and we were going around the till pile. I was showing them how to find fossils, and so I found this, and I'm like, all right, well, sent them on their way. They had a great time. I would eventually go back and talk to them some more. And as I was walking back up, I kind of just flashed the fossil that I found to my coworker as he was talking with some other guests coming in, and his eyes got like to the size of dinner plates. It was so cool. And he's like, "Do you know what that is?" And I'm like, "No, that's why I'm showing it to you." He's like, "Hang on a second." So I took a break. This was, it was still kind of a warm day. It was a slow day, so I was drinking my water, and finally he's like, I have to see this. He saw it, and he's like, "That is a fish plate." Okay, I'm sorry. What was that? That's fish plate. So it was actually a bony plate from a placoderm, and they are super 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 rare. And I flipped out. I thought of one of two things. There was a small seam. There is a small seam in it, and I thought, okay, it's got to be one of two things. It's either a very large calyx from a crinoid, which is a type of sea lily. They're still around. They're pretty cool. And I'm like, okay, this could be a calyx. I haven't seen that kind of weird, bumpy, almost pustule-like surface before. But I see a seam there. That may be. That may be. No. In fact, my coworker, he said, he's younger than me. He's younger than me. He was just getting into college, and he's like, this is a fish plate. This is a placoderm. You can tell by that pustulated surface that looks like a whole bunch of zits or really bumpy, that this is a placoderm. I flipped out. I flipped the fuck out. I was so excited. I wish I could find it. I really do, because I know it's in a box, secure somewhere. I actually had it cleaned by another coworker who cleans fossils. Of course, before then, I freaking dropped it, and I kicked myself. I dropped it, and it cracked right along that seam. Thankfully, glued it together. You wouldn't know it. But my coworker cleaned it up, zepped it. It was all bone. It was all fossilized bone. Originally, we thought it was from a Dunkleosteus. Dunkleosteus is a 16-inch placoderm from the area, pretty common. But the thickness of the plate was very very thick. It was almost about, I think in the thickest part, it was about a half an inch thick. That's way too thick to be a skull plate from something as small as a 16-inch fish, a Dunkleosteus. I would love to have this thing actually located down to at least genus. Dunkleosteus is actually a real good possibility because of the location it was found. Which actually, the next, here it is. So this is the locality of my fossil in a geologic map. So we have the red little pin, that's Penn-Dixie Fossil Park and Nature Reserve in just Hamburg, New York. And then right next to it, all right, I gotta come, you're gonna sit next to Godzilla. There we go, sit next to Godzilla. And right next to it, we have a geologic map of the same area, and along with the key. The geologic map is a little on the older side, but it's still very, very good. So it's the Louisville Formation, also part of the Hamilton group. Because it was a till pile and not in situ or in location, I can't tell exactly what layer it came out of, which kind of sucks because I can't get down into the real fine details, but I know it was a Louisville Formation, part of the Hamilton group, Penn-Dixie, so it's around 385 million years old. Not to the very end of the Devonian, but pretty much that, the end, the last real chunk of the Devonian. And that just it freaks me out. I'm still so happy about that find. That is my coup de grace as an amateur paleontologist and as a geologist. That is my that is just chef's kiss. Gorgeous. I love this. I need to find it. As soon as I do find it, I will upload it. Probably either as another image, or maybe I'll put it as the header of the page. So here's Dennis. This is Dennis the Dunkleosteus, the Dorky Dunkleosteus. I drew him a while back, and you can kind of see, I think that's Terry the Trilobite I drew next to him. So this is Dennis. He's actually the little icon I have as the current image for the page. I'm still trying to get his design figured out. Trying to make it look good, but still cartoony and friendly and fun. So it's really kind of cool, and I'm really happy. So Dennis, we actually have a name. So his name is Dennis. He is the Dorky Dunkleosteus. I am the curator. As much as I am the dunk, but I'm not the dunk. So yeah. Here are the sources. So a lot of stuff from Wikipedia. Again, it's a great source. I did link also the paper from 2017 that actually talks about the body type of Dunkleosteus torelli being more shark-like. Actually, this is actually an outdated model. They actually believe now they were much more shark-like. They had a larger lower lobe on their tail. So that should be cool. Also, the map was provided by buffalo.edu. That is UB. They did some great geologic maps, and so it's really cool. I really enjoy looking at the geologic maps. And like I said, if I do find the plate, the fish plate, I'm gonna be searching for it again. This week has been heck. It's been hell. But if I do find it again, I will do a mini video with it to kind of show it off. It's my pride and joy. Probably do a couple. I probably should do an episode just on my fossil collection of both what I've found, what I've purchased over the years, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun to do. So again, thank you so much. Of course, everything will be linked in the description below for the sources. If you have a comment, hey, or a suggestion, leave a like down below. I love hearing from you guys. Again, I also have good news. I have good news. So, as I said before, at the Hope from Home charity, my sister did have COVID. Even though the test came back negative, it was most likely a false negative. She is doing very well. She is on her way to recovery. She's actually up and about. She sounds fantastic. I just talked to her again today. So thank you so much. We raised $20 towards Hope for Home, but hey, that's... Yeah, okay, so let's see. We raised $20, and... So that's, 20 meals for people, at least a couple dozen masks, for first responders and essential care workers. So thank you so much. Let's see, what's coming up? Oh, my birthday is Wednesday. I turned the big 3-3. I'm another prime number. So I turned 33 on Wednesday. I may do a charity, not a charity stream. I may do a stream or something, or I may just decide to say screw it, and, it's kind of hard right now because still in quarantine. Well, not quarantine, but still self-isolating and all that kind of stuff. But thank you again so much for coming out. Leave a like in the so thank you so much for coming out. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, ring the bell. So happy to have you here, and please remember to stay safe, stay smart, and keep on digging. Have a great day, everybody. See you next week.